I'm running 100-mile ultramarathon on average every month for the third year in a row. And this training vlog provides the information as to how I train and how I prepare for all of these races. Hi, Simon here. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to episode 7 of my running vlog. On this channel, I post ultra running documentary of my races, tips video, and just like this video, running vlog that follows my training and preparation ahead of these races. These videos are meant to provide transparency and honesty so that you can know what it really takes to race these races and that average people, just like me, just like you, can do it. Today's episode covers 3 weeks, starting from after my last race, Bighorn 100-mile ultramarathon, which I post an ultra running documentary, all the way up to Quebec Mega Trail 100-mile racing back home for me. And that's the first thing I want to emphasize or highlight. Going back home felt absolutely great. Seeing my family, seeing friends. It was a great way to relax. I was also able to take time off from work because it's around 4th of July. So I was also able to actually relax, catch up on making videos for this channel, but also just finally taking some time for myself, sometimes to breathe, sometimes to spend quality time with family and friends. But you're not here for that, you're here for the running. Well, it's a 3 weeks period between those two races. Those races are pretty intense, but 3 weeks for me, I'm getting kind of used to it, and it actually provides me a little bit of time to have some recovery period after Bighorn 100 mile. And if you're curious about how I recover in general, I posted a tip video about that very recently. A small training block of really only 1 week and then taper. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to provide a high-level highlight of how the race QMT Quebec Mega Trail went with a little bit of footage, but of course the full ultra running documentary is going to come out in a week or so. So let's dive right in. The first week was very much focused on recovery. Because I'm racing so much, and in fact 3 weeks is a good period now, but from now on until mid-September, I race at least 100 mile every 2 weeks, and all of these races are pretty intense mountain race. So back to back to back to back like that is pretty intense, and I won't have necessarily a lot of time to train, but I need to focus a lot on recovery. I need to make sure that my fitness stays at the same level as opposed to degrading, and I need to focus on preventing any level of injuries. Even just blisters could be a problem because it takes time to heal. And that's exactly what I did the first week. I was focusing a lot, no training plan, nothing fancy, focusing a lot of active recovery, testing my legs with a little bit of walking, a little bit of cycling, and also doing sauna as much as possible. I think it's helping for my recovery. But also these mountain races this summer are also, well, in the summer. And some of them will be pretty hot. So I want to also have a pretty strong block of sauna while I have the time. More specifically, the race was Friday, Saturday. So Sunday with Nora, we went hiking a little bit, reading a little bit, just relaxing. Monday I already felt a little bit better. I went for a little walk just to relax around lunchtime, and I decided that I would activate active recovery as soon as possible. So I went to the gym, a little indoor biking session, and then a sauna session. Tuesday I did basically the same thing minus the walk. Work was getting pretty intense. I just didn't have time, but anyway, I didn't feel like I was ready to run yet. Wednesday work was again very intense, so I decided, you know what, that's gonna be a full rest day. Thursday I wanted to test my leg. 4-mile runs, didn't go too fast at the 9-minute mile pace. I'll put here below in kilometers, followed by a sauna session. Friday is exactly what happened. I went a little higher in terms of watts, not anything crazy, but I was sweating a lot. I was drenched afterwards, and then I went into the sauna and I struggled so much. It was really, really difficult, but at the same time, that's a good sign. That means that I'm very much pushing the limit of what I can endure, and my body is adapting to the heat. Saturday, I went running with Nora. We did our 13-mile hill run, decent elevation climb at about 2,000 feet. So it was a really good workout. Smack in the middle of the day, the heat was super intense. It was really difficult. It was a really good workout. That's a 13-mile climb. Hot and steep. Almost there. all the way down there. Then Nora was flying home to see her parents before we would reconnect in Montreal. So that was also a way for us to kind of catch up a little bit. Normally, I don't think I would have put that run in that week, but I really want to run with her and I really want to test my leg. We went a little slower than usual. We were both still a little sore from the race the week before. You know, a little reminder, Nora was pacing me for 52 miles. So she did an ultra marathon herself. It's a big effort out there. And same for me, I was still tired 1 week later, but feeling much better. This 13-mile run is a decently difficult course. Oh yeah, and I didn't take notes as to when that happened, but there's a lot of bees recently around where we live. And when you're running on the sidewalk, sometimes you hit a spot where there must be a hive or something, and there's so many of them. It's really scary. I try to avoid these spots, but there's so many of them. And Nora, unfortunately, as she was by herself, I think it was maybe Wednesday that week, she got attacked by so many of them. She got stung. I really feel sorry for her. And in the process, she broke her phone because she fell down. And also, she probably tried to flick them away and she lost one of her headpiece. So I actually went there with my winter jacket and ski goggle trying to find the headphone. Unfortunately, I didn't find the headphone. So she lost her headphone. She broke her phone. I guess the bees won this time. It's funny how little things like that you would never think would be an issue on a run, like getting attacked by dozens of bees, sometimes can happen. And not to try to make a big story out of it, but that could also happen in the middle of a race. You train so much and you get attacked by so many of these bees. And when I went back there to get the headphone, yeah, it was really scary. There were a lot of them. We're not talking 4 or 5. Like it was, even though I was wearing everything and I thought like I'm kind of protected, it was really, really scary. And that she was there, not great. So really sorry for her, but it's good to remember that there are things that are outside of your control that can derail everything. And that was super random and really unfortunate for her, but it happens sometimes. And with Nora being gone, I was actually able to focus very much on editing the movie Bighorn 100 so that I was able to release it during the weekend. And lately what I've been doing with these ultra running documentary is I try to set up a live premiere with chat. I try to announce it on Instagram. Usually it's 1 or 2 days ahead of time, or I try to say, you know, I think the movie is going to come out Saturday. The exact time will only be released or disclosed when we're very close to it, because the movie actually needs to be uploaded to YouTube and needs to be ready for me to set it up. And very often I'm working till very late at night just before the release. So it's a little bit tricky, but I think it's been a great way to interact with so many of you. So if you've never joined one of them, highly suggest you have a look. I'm going to do that for QMT, hopefully next weekend. And just head to Instagram, follow me on Instagram to have more information. And the premiere kind of disrupted a little bit my training on Sunday. So I went for a 4-mile run. I went to the sauna and then I had to come back very quickly for the live premiere, chatting with everyone. I was drinking so much because I was very dehydrated while chatted. So that, I don't know if I was loopy. I really don't remember if I said anything silly, but the power of the boner is definitely a joke that made it in that movie. And then afterwards in the evening, I went for a little run, again, 4 miles. So for a day of 8 miles and the day before 13 miles. And for me, that's a sign that I'm back to normal training.
Wow.
Monday, I decided to do some speed work, because the two things that I skip very often, and I know myself now, it's strength training and speed work. So I put the speed training first day, so I cannot skip it. I went for a tempo run, 1 hour at 7:30 miles. That's a fast pace for me, especially 1 week after a race like that. So it was a good effort. Then I jumped into the sauna. I could only do 20 minutes. And as I said before, it's because the intensity of the workout before that was so high that I was already sweating a lot. So the sauna just exacerbated that very quickly, and 20 minutes was really rough. Tuesday, I did the second thing that I skip all the time, which is a strength training session. And I tried to be reasonable this time so that I wouldn't be sore for the rest of the week. Small session, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, followed by a little bit of running. Not too fast, just 6 miles. And finally, a small sauna session. I could have done longer this time, it's just that time was a factor. Wednesday, I went for a 10-mile run. slow pace, trying to stay in zone 2, but not necessarily monitoring through my heart rate, but just monitoring through effort. It was a treadmill run. It was kind of boring. Thursday, I went for a little walk, 2 miles around lunchtime just to relax. Then I had 10 miles that I wanted to do just like the day before, but it was interrupted because of work, so I had to come back later. So I did, I think, 4 miles and 6 miles, a reasonably slow pace. The goal again was to try and stay in zone 2. And I capped the day with a little sauna session, 30-minute. Friday, 6 miles, slow mile. I could have done something a little bit more productive, but I knew what was coming the day after, so I decided to do something a little bit more quiet, followed by a sauna session. Then Saturday, I did my 13-mile with big climbs, so hill training, good workout, and then I was flying in the evening for Montreal. Red eyes because I'm cheap. So I slept in the plane, arrived in Montreal pretty tired, not exactly rested, but I still wanted to do 10 miles to cap my week. And I'm very happy with this week of training. I think it's good sometimes to reflect on, instead of going day by day, what happened during that week. And I really want to have a productive week because I won't have so many of those. Mileage wise, 65 miles, that's exactly what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming between 60 and 70. And then looking into the quality aspect of the workout, I had the speed session on Monday, I had the strength session on Tuesday, I had a lot of sauna session, and I had hill training on Saturday. So all in all, very happy with this week, and I think that was good preparation ahead of Quebec Mega Trail. And then it's finally race week, Quebec Mega Trail 100 mile QMT. It's part of the World Trail Major. It's my third World Trail Major of the year. The first one was Black Canyon, second one was Mount Fuji 100. So very excited to do such a big race, but also very importantly, very excited to be racing in Canada and more specifically in Quebec, where I'm from. It's the first time I'm racing there, but of course the trails, I know them. So the race itself was exactly what I expected. And the trail, if you don't know trails from the Northeast and more specifically from Quebec, this gives you a pretty good representation of what I grew up on. I was not trail running back then, I was hiking a lot, and actually being there reminded me a lot of my grandfather, which passed us the love for the outdoors and for hiking. I was hiking in that area, and for example, Mont Saint-Anne, which is where the race is finishing, I did it with my grandfather quite a few times. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately, but the love for the outdoors is still within me, and just spending time there, it brought a lot of good memories. And the trail, as I said, are exactly what you can expect in Quebec, and let's just say it mildly, those are rugged. Because of the winter, because of just the nature of these trails, they're not always very well groomed, so they can become very narrow. They are not always as well maintained as the trail you would see, for example, in California, just because of the winter. And generally speaking, based on the nature there, it's a lot of rocks, it's a lot of roots, it's a lot of dirt, and it's a lot of rain. And it did rain during the race. It rained pretty much all the morning and early afternoon on Saturday. The rain itself was not necessarily a big deal. What was a way bigger deal was that the trails were now wet and they don't hold water very well. So a lot of segments were extremely muddy. To put things in perspective, it was way muddier than Bighorn this year. A lot more. And the difference is that at Bighorn, it gets muddy, but not necessarily technical. Over there, you're in the mud, it's technical, it's slippery on pretty steep slopes, but also just the rocks, the wood bridge, everything is so slick, the roots. I had a few near miss. I have a pretty big bruise on one of my leg. I also came very close to falling pretty bad a couple of times. I was able to save it, but it just makes it a lot harder. And mentally, you have to always be focused where you put your next step, because the next step could be the one that takes you out of the race. So you can't be too tired, you need to stay vigilant. But the race itself started Friday evening, which also means that we spent 2 nights out there. I was extremely tired. Also, the race was not where I was staying with my family, was in Montreal, where we did a lot of different things together. But we had to drive there Friday. So Friday, I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to sleep during the day. So I really went for 2 days without much sleep. So I was really tired. But even just the first night and the first day, I had to be careful. I was so slick, it was so slippery. But at some point the rain does stop, which you think, well, that's great. Well, that's great, except the trail is still wet until the end.
and now you have the mosquito back. But it was such a great experience. I think it's really nice to be able to see different types of trail, and that was very specifically very Quebecois. So if you're curious about where I come from, how are the trails, it's exactly like that. But don't be surprised if you have to walk a lot of it. Will I be back for it? Potentially. It was nice to spend time with the family, so it's kind of a good excuse to go there. And the race itself, how did it go? It went okay. I was not necessarily in the best of shape, but also not terribly bad. But I was very, very careful all the time to not slip. And that's one of the main reasons why I was so slow. But at the same time, I think that means that my recovery should be pretty fast. I didn't want to push too hard, not necessarily physically, but an injury right now would ruin pretty much the whole summer. And I have so many cool races coming up that I knew I had enough time with the cutoff. I decided I'm just going to take it slow, really be careful. And the gear that I tried, and it turned out pretty good, I tried Salomon Speedcross shoes. I had tried them in the past, but I felt it was a good mix of something that is very technical, very grippy for that kind of trail, very good toe protection, it's very sturdy. A little sturdier than for my own taste. And I was also testing my Phoenix headlamp, and it was a good test this time because it was for 2 nights straight. I was out there. I used the same headlamp, same battery, didn't need to charge, so I was really impressed with that, and I'm curious to push even further to see how long it will last. But of course I had a backup. The summer is on, and I mentioned it before, I have a lot of exciting race coming out. Just so that you're aware, I'm racing Tahoe Rim Trail next in Nevada. Then I'm going back to California for Angeles Crest 100. Then it's Leadville 100. Then it's Tour des Géants in Italy, which is 200 miler with about 80,000 feet of gain. So it's a crazy race. And just before that, we're actually going to take vacation with Nora in Italy. You know, we're going to be flying there already in the Alps. And we're going to do Tour du Mont Blanc. Not the race, but the same trail. And that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. If you appreciate this video, if you appreciate the vlog format, please leave a thumbs up. Leave in the comments below what you're curious about. I know there's not so much detail about food or these sorts of things. It's hard to track. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.